Hello everyone. In this video I would like to discuss with you the real reason why Thomas Cromwell fell from grace. I would like to look at the evidence we have, and I would like to discuss with you what do you really think happened. It is well known that Thomas Cromwell is a courtier that really rose to power at the court of Henry VIII. His first master was Cardinal Wolsey, and he learned anything and everything from that man. His background is the fact that he's not a nobleman, he's actually the son of a blacksmith, and he's from Putney. And all of these things, I think, really matter, because in a way, it is also what created, in my opinion, in my views, his downfall. Thomas Cromwell is the man that helped Henry VIII getting what he wanted, which was getting rid of Catherine of Aragon and finding a way to marry Anne Boleyn. For that reason, so many people said that he betrayed his first master, Cardinal Wolsey. I think it is more complicated than that. I think that Thomas Cromwell must have been loyal to Cardinal Wolsey, but he also was an opportunistic and ambitious man who really wanted to succeed himself. And with what was happening, he realized that there was a venue for him to pursue his ideas and his interest in the reformed ideas from the continent. We know that he was corresponding with big reformist people, such as Philip Melanchthon, who was a German Lutheran reformer, a collaborator with Martin Luther, and the first systematic theologian of the Protestant Reformation. He was an intellectual leader of the Lutheran Reformation. We know that Thomas Cromwell, despite his very humble background, he traveled a lot. He went to Rome, he went to the continent, he spent time in Antwerp. He's a well-traveled, and everything that he learned and everything that he did comes from himself. I want you to understand that with Cromwell, because I think that you can't really understand how he fell from grace when you don't understand who he really was. I think personally that he was extremely intelligent, that he must have had an incredible memory, an incredible mind, understanding the complexities of politics and of diplomacy. And we know that he worked for Cardinal Wolsey, and he knew the law of England very, very well. We know that when he's arrested in 1540, people are saying that it happened because he failed to please Henry VIII with the marriage with Anne of Cleves. So when you look at the school text and the way we teach history, we basically say, teachers alike, and I'm not blaming teachers, by the way, but we just say that, Thomas Cromwell failed in pleasing the king, and so it was the end of him because of what happened with Anne of Cleves. The fact that the marriage was a failure. And I think here we just dismiss all the political agendas of everyone else at the time around Cromwell in 1540. And I think we dismissed a few things. We dismissed the jealousy of noblemen, including Thomas Howard, the Duke of Norfolk. We dismissed the fact that lots of people resented Cromwell. Lots of people thought he had too much power. But something else, and I think that's probably the real reason behind the fall of Cromwell. It's his own rivalry with Henry VIII. Yes, you heard me right. His own rivalry with Henry VIII. Because yes, he was probably very loyal to Henry VIII. I can't imagine Thomas Cromwell betraying Henry VIII. Having said that, do I think that with the right opportunities, with the right setup, with the right circumstances, could he have had betrayed Henry VIII down the line? Yes, I think so. Because when you really look at Thomas Cromwell's life, it's the way he is. It's the way he presented himself. It's the way he knew how to play the political game. And I think Henry VIII, who was also extremely intelligent, I think he's a monster, but I think he was a very intelligent, very smart monster. And I think he saw a threat in Cromwell. And I think the real reason why, obviously, like people were saying that, you know, it's because of his religious beliefs. I don't think so. I think it has nothing with the fact that he was or not having a correspondence with Melanchthon or with Luther or whatever of that. I think it comes down to the fact that Cromwell was rising to power too quickly, that he was the most influential man in England at the time, in 1538, 1539, 1540, and that all his enemies, and even the people who he's helped before, like Richard Rich, like Risley, like other people, are just going to turn on him because he's just becoming too powerful. Another thing that I think really happened when I talk about the rivalry between him and Henry, I think people always ask me, why do you think that Henry VIII, you know, named him and gave him the title of Earl of Essex, and then, you know, a few months later, you know, asked for him to be taken to the Tower and be executed? I think he was testing Cromwell. I think he was like, how much power do you want? Do you really think a son of a blacksmith should be given earldom? And I think here it's where we see that in many ways Cromwell was blind with his ambitions, because if he had really thought about it through it, and if he had thought this through, he would have realized, okay, that's a bit weird. He's literally making me Earl of Essex. He knows that it's going to create more enemies. He knows that Stephen Gardiner is back. He knows that I have lots of problems with Norfolk, lots of problems with Stephen Gardiner. And I think that was a test to see if he could say, no, you've already given me so much, master. I'm already so indebted in my gratitude towards you because you've given me everything. I'm nothing without you. I cannot accept this title. And I think if he had said that, I'm not sure he would have fallen. I know, it's quite controversial. You might think, oh my god, Esther, what are you about? You really think that just this title would have created this? Yes, I do. Because I think that then Henry was easier to manipulate or to poison, like, you know, easier to be poisoned by the enemies of Cromwell by saying, look at what he's doing. And the other thing as well, like, you know, the fact that Princess Mary, no one is good enough for Princess Mary, and that actually is not on these terms. I really don't think that Cromwell wanted to marry Princess Mary. I think the ones who accused him of that are absolutely delusional. I don't think he's that type of man, really. But I think that he was extremely worried about who she would marry, why she would marry, and how it would affect him. So that in many ways, no one was really good enough for her. And I think he probably needed a couple that he could completely control, and he didn't feel that way with anyone. Because that's one other thing I think that is true, is that Cromwell befriended Mary, Princess Mary, not because he had a real compassion towards her. I don't see it, I'm sorry. I think he was calculating the fact that what if Henry VIII died? He had a bad fall. He had a bad, kind of health at the end. He was getting fatter. He was not getting healthier. What if he had died? Princess Mary would have become queen. And so being on bad terms with her was not in Thomas Cromwell's interest. Now, does that mean that he's betraying Henry VIII? No, at all. Do I think that he tried to put Mary on the throne and overthrow Henry VIII? Absolutely not. But I think that the real reason why Thomas Cromwell fell from grace, I think the trigger is when he's made Earl of Essex. I think that moment, it's a test from Henry VIII. When Henry VIII is like, are you loyal to me? Or are you loyal to yourself? Are you here to work for me and serve me? Or deep down you're here to work for yourself and serve yourself? And I think the real answer, the real Thomas Cromwell, was a man who was only serving himself. And I want you to understand that, because I'm not shading, like, Cromwell, but I want you to understand that he came from nothing and became the most powerful just after Henry VIII, the most powerful man in England. You don't go from 0 to 100 by just being a nice person, right? You just don't, like, by having no ambition, by not loving power, by just serving a master. You are, deep down, your own master. And I think that Henry VIII saw that, and I think the real reason why Cromwell fell from grace is because of his rivalry that was maybe not explicit, but that existed between him and Henry VIII. Let me know in the comments why you think Thomas Cromwell fell from grace. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. Bye!